there, and welcome back to another video on Loved and Listened To. I am Nicole, and I am a content creator and writer, and over at my site, Loved and Listened To, you can find resources to help you live your best life, as I like to say. And those resources include lots of information on all aspects of wellness. So your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness. You're interested in getting those together, getting yourself together, check out my website, www.lovedandlistenedto.com. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 side effects that I have experienced since attending therapy. So in my last video, I talked about, some misconceptions related to what it's like to attend therapy. And thankfully so far that video has been really well received. Everyone that I know personally who's watched it has reached out and thanked me for sharing my story, so that's really awesome. And several people had questions about what are some of the tangible kind of effects that I have experienced since I started to go to therapy. So basically asking me, does therapy really work, and how do you know? What are some things that are easier for you now? So I thought about those questions, and in this video I'm going to answer by giving 5 positive side effects of therapy. So before I begin, if you would so kindly at this point, if you would please consider liking the channel. And at the end of the video, if you like the video, press the like button, share it with a friend. Doing those things, or make a comment, doing those things really helps to tell the YouTube algorithm that you want to see more of my content. And so I'm able to kind of spread it out to more people, and that would be really helpful to both me and to all of the people who can see and gain value from my videos. So thank you very much. Okay, so the first side effect of therapy that I'm going to talk about is increased awareness. So basically an increased awareness of my own thoughts, my behavior, and myself. So I'm talking about this one first because I feel like this one is probably the most positive. It is the most it's the change that has made the most difference in just my normal day-to-day life. So before I started to go to therapy, I think that I lived a pretty quote-unquote normal mental life. So maybe you can relate to this. I think a lot of people think that things like situations or things that happen that other people do are more about us than they really are. And in truth, a lot of what other people do, their actions, they're not based on us. So there's kind of a humanistic tendency to internalize a lot of like external behaviors, external things that people might say or do to us, because we think that we are as important, or we are important to other people more than what we really are. And I'm not really talking about people who are close to you that you know is, like a good family member, a positive family member, or a husband or a girlfriend or something like that. I'm not talking about that, but or even like maybe a little bit of that. But even in that case, if it's a really personal relationship, you will know that, maybe your husband had a really bad day at work, and he might be grouchy or something. And when he comes home, he may be in a bad mood. And so you get some of the behavior of what happened to him, but technically or realistically, his mood is not about you, or his mood is not about something that you directly did. And so for me, how this used to manifest in my life is that I would, like when I went out to restaurants or in traffic or things like that, I would sometimes feel like silly things that people would do or say, like if someone was a little bit rude to me or not as pleasant as I would like them to be at a restaurant or at a store, or if someone cut me off in traffic, I would react in a way that is like way over the top based on like the relationship that I had with that person. So this is kind of hard to explain. So I'm going to give you an example. So my example that came to mind when I was writing this down, when I was writing my notes down, which are over here, about a couple of months ago, I was driving along a busy street in Houston. Houston is full of cars. I've talked about that before. I think I mentioned that in the last video. And I was turning from one busy street left onto another busy street. And as I was doing that, I noticed that there was a car behind me who was driving very erratically, jumping in and out of lanes, getting very close to my car, like braking really hard so the person didn't hit me. So they were just driving like a crazy person. And in Houston, with all the traffic, you can't really drive like that. I mean, you can, and people do, but it's so dangerous, and it annoys me. So when I went to turn, this person again, like they had like driven up really quickly behind me. I was at a stoplight, so we're all just waiting. I don't know where they thought they were going, but waiting at the stoplight, light turns green. We go to turn left. I turn left, this person is behind me. And when I turned left, there was a gas station immediately on my right. And so I put on my left turn signal, turn left, put on the right turn signal, boom, turn right into the gas station. But because I wasn't going fast enough, I guess I wasn't accelerating so fast because I was going to make an immediate right turn, this person honked their horn at me. And I was like, oh, okay, I see what we're doing. So in that moment, I honked my horn back, and they honked their horn like, what? Like they just laid on the horn. So I rolled down my window and gave them one of these fingers. You can decide which one you think I gave them. And then I went about my day and I pumped my gas and so forth, right? So telling that story, you might think, girl, you have done zero work at therapy. Like you are on here lying on Facebook talking about you go to therapy. But actually, I wanted to share that story as an example of like how I now can interact with myself and other people and what's going on with them and how I internalize that. So before I went to therapy, that situation would have made me angry for hours. I would have thought about like, oh my God, what a horrible person. Where did she get her driver's license? I hope she has a flat tire. You know, like I would have had all of these ruminating thoughts. I would have just like stewed in being angry for at least an hour or probably more if I'm honest. Now, like I mentioned in my last video, I'm not the Buddha. I'm not, you know, this super crazy calm person that never has negative emotions. But now, after that happened to me, I felt better by the time I finished pumping my gas. Like when I was thinking about it, of course I was frustrated. When I first got to the gas pump, I was like, oh, you know, these crazy people driving, you know. And then I thought about like, oh my gosh, like I gave that lady one of these fingers. Houston is crazy. There's road rage incidences all the time. Like, why did I do that? And so, but I thought those things and then I let it go because I now have an awareness of, first, that woman's driving and her aggression towards me is not a reflection of how I was behaving or anything that I did. So that was a big revelation for me going to therapy. 2, I also have more awareness of my emotions. So I was able to acknowledge that I was angry because of the situation. I was able to acknowledge that I acted out of anger. Not only was I angry, but I also behaved in an angry way. And then I was able to say, okay, well, that's over with. I'm thankful that it didn't go, any further than that. I forgive myself for acting out in an angry way, like returning that negative energy. And now I'm gonna pump my gas. I'm gonna go about my day. And I didn't think about it any more in a negative way. I obviously internalized it as a learning opportunity because I remember it to talk to you about today, but I didn't beat myself up and say like, oh my God, I'm a horrible person too. She's horrible. Everybody's horrible. Traffic's horrible. Houston's horrible. Like, I didn't do all of that. And I used to just go through like the snowball of being whatever emotion it was because of some external thing that happened to me. And now, after going to therapy and increasing my awareness of my own thoughts and myself and my behavior, I'm able to just navigate the world in a way that, again, is not perfect, but with the increased awareness, I am definitely able to move through situations and move away from negative experiences mentally, specifically, much faster than I was able to do before. So therapy does work. It's not going to turn you into Mother Teresa, probably, but it does work. And I do have a much better relationship with myself and my awareness because of therapy. So that's side effect number 1. All right, so now I'm ready to tell you about side effect number 2. This one's positive and sweet and will give you all the feels. But the second side effect of attending therapy for me has been increased feelings of kindness and understanding towards other people. And that through therapy, I don't go to therapy and talk about how I can be more kind and understanding towards other people. When I go to a therapeutic session, when it comes up naturally, like in a natural way, I talk about how I can be more kind and understanding to myself. So all of the memes that you see on the internet where it talks about like it starts with self-love and self-kindness and all this stuff, it's super corny and you've probably seen it so many times. But even if you're kind of like not much of a believer so much of the memes and stuff like I am, that I see on the internet, in truth and in reality, that really is, starting with yourself is really how you are going to be able to improve your relationship with life, your experience with life. So starting to show kindness and understanding to myself, it just naturally, it's not something that I'm consciously aware of. I notice that I have more kindness and patience towards other people, despite the story that I just shared with you. Excuse the noise if you can hear it, if I can't get the audio to not have cars in the background. But so just I've now focused on practicing kindness to myself when I think I've messed up. I know I use a lot of air quotes, but because this stuff is not messing up in most of the time we think like, oh, I've messed up. No, you have just really experienced a time when you are able to learn from something. Most of the times, the mistakes that we make in our behavior they're just learning opportunities. And most of the times they're not even, like, in my experience at least, it's nothing that I can't make up or change or whatever. So yeah, but just day to day, showing more understanding and kindness towards myself. For me personally, that looks like moving away as much as I can from my perfectionist tendencies. So because I have those perfectionist tendencies, I tend to think that everything that I have to do has to be either perfect, like 100% perfect in my mind, because in reality, perfection doesn't exist. So it's always just whatever I think counts as perfect. Or if it's not perfect, so if there's 10 questions on the test and I miss one, in my mind, sometimes I think, well, I may as well miss all of them because I didn't get 10 out of 10. So for me, a big one is working on moving away from those perfectionist tendencies, moving more towards acknowledging that I'm a human person. There's only so much energy and time that I have. I'm going to mess up. Messing up is a part of the human experience. And it's really, that's all I can experience anyway. So that's a big one for me. What's another one? Another thing that I practice doing that I've learned to do through therapy, so I consider it a positive side effect, is that now when I am feeling tired physically or mentally, I rest. I did not used to do that. I used to constantly push myself to be more productive, to do more things, to put more things on my to-do list. Or if I wasn't feeling well, I would be almost angry at myself for feeling bad or for having a headache or something. And now when I can, which is honestly most of the time, thankfully, I take even a moment, even if it's just to like go for a short walk or to stop working for 15 minutes or something, to take a nap. I try not to take medicine, but if I have a really bad headache, I don't judge myself for taking 2 Advil, you know? So that's really like a really big thing, just to have like a little bit more increased feelings of kindness and understanding towards myself. And now it just flows out. It flows out. I have more patience when I am in line at the grocery store, even in traffic, even though it doesn't sound like it. But I do have more patience and understanding towards people who do things differently from how I would, or whatever the situation is. Because I have so much of it for myself, I can see myself as a human, and now I can see other people as flawed and human and extend kindness and understanding to them as well. So that is a really great side effect of going to therapy. All right, are you guys ready for number 3? So the third one is less feelings of agitation and anger. So the third one and the fourth one, well, they're all kind of interrelated, but the third one and the fourth one are quite related. So again, even though sometimes I still get angry, generally just everyday life, going to the grocery store, going to the museum, driving in traffic, interacting with people on the phone, whatever, people at work, all these things. Overall, I would say if I would have kept a chart of how many times I felt like really agitated before I started going to therapy, I feel like I would have been agitated at least 5 out of 7 days of the week. Just like, oh, why is this like this? Wanting things to be different, wanting people to be different, having really high expectations of people and myself, which led to disappointment. And yeah, so I used to be much more of, an agitated, annoyed kind of person. And now, after going to therapy, and just to reiterate what I said before about gaining awareness of how I feel and being able to acknowledge and navigate feelings and emotions a bit more, that naturally just lends itself to being less angry and agitated. And also, when I do become angry or agitated now, I can have I have the skill set basically to kind of disconnect from the angry part of me and look down at this angry part of me with kindness and understanding. And just doing that helps me to release anger, feel less angry, definitely not act out on it all the time. I do sometimes. And yeah, just overall just feeling less irritated because of the awareness that I have of myself and how I'm feeling, and being able to disconnect a little bit. Okay, so like I said before, number 4 is related to number 3. And number 4 is increased feelings of calmness. So personally, I have suffered or experienced, I don't really like to use the word suffered, but I've experienced feelings of anxiety ever since I can remember. I remember back to my earliest memories. I didn't have a word for it at that time, of course, but I remember feeling anxious about random things in kindergarten that the other kids didn't seem bothered by. So I have really only known anxiety until recently, and to the point where in the past I've taken herbal medications to try to help, or drinking anti-stress tea and stuff like that, when really through therapy I have learned, because I've learned how to have a better relationship with my emotions, that naturally helps to calm some of my anxious feelings. And also now I can kind of catch anxious feelings when it's kind of creeping up on me. Because I have a little bit of separation and awareness, I can say, oh, this is making me feel anxious. Let's take a step back and think about, or write about, or talk to someone about why I'm feeling anxious about this. Where is it coming from? What can I do? If I can do something, sometimes you can't do something to fix everything, but what can I do to help me live through this anxiety-inducing experience? So being able to do those things has really helped me to become more calm, less agitated, and the feelings of acceptance that I have towards myself that naturally come out towards other people also helps me to be less agitated, or to remain calm when people behave in ways that would have normally irritated me. All right, so now I'm ready to tell you about the last one, number 5. So my 5th side effect of going to therapy. All right, so it is, I wrote down shortened time to bounce back from disappointments. So that's kind of a long way to say that I can now experience disappointment and accept it as part of my overall human experience. When I encounter a person or a situation that's disappointing to me, I'm now able to say, okay, that happened. Just acknowledge it, that happened. That's not how I wanted this to turn out. I feel saddened by this, or disappointed, obviously, or whatever the emotion is. And I can write about or journal about why, and I can just go on. Before, like I mentioned, I used to ruminate in things like if something didn't go the way that I wanted it to, I might be sad for like 2 or 3 days about something. And now I realize that a lot of things in life are not, it's not life or death. Like only life and death is life and death, right? So anything that happens between life and death is usually fixable. You can bounce back from it. You can get another opportunity. For me, over the years, I've had to change positions, or had the opportunity to change work positions, jobs a couple of times, and there have been times when I really was interested in a job and I wasn't chosen for the job. But I've never gone hungry. I've never been evicted. I've never, none of these like really extreme things have happened to me. I'm very thankful. I acknowledge that I'm very privileged that none of those things have happened to me. But even if, I know of people who have been evicted or who have received, really bad news with about their partners, or getting laid off, or things like that. I know tons of people have been laid off. In Houston, the oil and gas industry is really big, and the oil and gas industry is like riding a roller coaster. So I know tons of people have been laid off, and over time, they all found new jobs. They all found something else that they wanted to do, or whatever. And so most things that, even really super bad disappointments, if you can disconnect your worth from the disappointment. So for example, in the past, if I did not get a job that I went out for, that I tried out for or interviewed for, I would think, oh my God, I am a horrible employee. I'm stupid. They must think I'm dumb. I must have did the worst interview they ever saw. I would just spiral into this negativity and beat myself up. But now, I'm still disappointed. I still get sad, but I am able to have a healthier relationship, I should say, with my disappointment, when I feel disappointment. And that goes with all of the negative emotions, sadness, disappointment, all those things. I'm able to experience it, cry, be mad or whatever, and then say, okay, you deserve to feel that way. This is just how you're feeling. It doesn't mean anything else. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that you're weak or anything. It doesn't mean anything else other than this didn't work out the way that you wanted it to. And then I say to myself, can I fix this to make it work out the way that I wanted to? Usually the answer is no. And so that gives me freedom to move on, do something else. So that's also a really big one. And as you can imagine, as I've walked you through each of these side effects, you can kind of see how they lend themselves to each other. So being able to accept and bounce back from disappointment would also lend itself to me feeling more calm, would also lend itself to feeling less agitated, being able to get out of the energy of feeling agitated or sad more quickly. So they all kind of, mix in together to create a better lived experience for me. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Those are, again, 5 of the positive side effects that I have experienced from going to therapy. Again, I've asked you, but like I'll ask you again, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps me a lot with getting things crack-a-lacking, hooking it up with the YouTube algorithm. And yeah, if you've made it this far in the video, if you want to comment 3 brain emojis, 3, because we're talking about stuff that goes on in our heads, right? So if you want to comment the 3 brain emojis, I'd be super helpful, and then I'll know that you actually made it this far in the video and you're the best. Or leave a comment about something else. Are you going to therapy and have already experienced some positive side effects from going to therapy? If so, and you feel comfortable sharing, don't write about your business that you don't want to share. But if you feel comfortable sharing, please, you could also comment that. I would love to read your comment and I will reply back. So until next time, this is me, this is Nicole, giving you realness on the emotional and mental health tip. And yeah, check out my website, www.lovedandlistenedto.com. Sign up for my newsletter so I can get all up in your inbox and stuff. I think that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. And as always, I hope that you remain and feel loved and listened to. Until next time, bye-bye.